Welcome back, WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and Baltimore Positive. We are completely calm around here amidst the pandemic and trying to stay completely cool as the weather turns a little bit. Baltimore Positive, of course. We'd love to get back on the road. I would love to be over at Lexington Market right now with Don Moeller having those delicious crab cakes, but he actually ordered them online and had them shipped over to Catonsville where he was still wiping the cocktail sauce off. He did not order the mac and cheese, but he's going to do that. And this week, part of my essential business, getting out and about, I am going to stop by and see my dear friend Evan Brown. I'm probably going to order like one of everything on the menu over at State Fair. It is, Don, all these poor guests that we have here lately, we usually invite people out for delicious food, some shrimp and grits or some chicken and waffles, and we're not able to do that right now, and I know you're missing that part of this, right?
I am missing it, but I was smart enough last week to order a double order of crab cakes from Fadley's, came right to my front door, so my wife and I will be having crab cakes again here in the next night or so. Little tidbit for folks who are on the Fadley's website. Order a large order of the Maryland crab and then a large order of the cream of crab, mix them half and half, greatest soup on the face of the earth. So support our friends at Fadley's, all of our friends at State Fair, breakfast, lunch, dinner. They'll bring it right to curbside. You don't need to go
11 a.m. on Wednesday. It says right here, 11 a.m. tomorrow. I can pick up. You schedule a pickup. Boom. And the next, so I can have so it's my own fault for not having them right now. So when I'm making the journey out on essential business, I have another side. Good. I'm going to have some crab cakes here about a weekend. Watch me.
And Jeff Moeller and Jerry Realtors continuing to sell real estate, list houses, sell houses through this pandemic. Somehow they're doing it through virtual tours. They're working with our good friends at Crown Title to actually conduct settlements throughout this. So real estate continues. So give Jeff a call, 410-746-1547. Nestor, you said when we started that we were going to talk with only smart people.
I'm trying.
A good friend of mine, Ken Birch, the other day, who works at the community college, said, Don, you guys have to get Jaime Alvarez on. He's the chair of the physics department at CCBC, the Community College of Baltimore County.
By the way, that's my alma mater. I just want to throw that in. I was Dundalk campus.
Your alma mater, a proud graduate, one of our good friends, Dr. Sandra Kirknitis, who we're going to get on with us real soon, one of the real superstars in community colleges across the nation. And Ken says, you got to get Jaime on because the community college has done some incredible stuff here recently in terms of providing masks and providing the face guards. And he said it's just really been amazing to watch how the physics department and the Fab Lab has gotten involved. So, Jaime, welcome to Baltimore Positive, and we can't wait to hear the story.
Well, thank you both for having me on. We really appreciate you spotlighting our efforts, and we're glad to be here to certainly help the community throughout this crisis.
Well, look, I've talked a lot about my education on this program, maybe more so than I had in almost 30 years of doing sports radio, other than people knowing that I'm from Dundalk and I went to Dundalk High. And, I think of drafting class and I think of, shop. And I know we talked about home ec on this program at some point last year and talking about the things that were available. Engineering's one of those things that, I don't know if the kids think they're in the third grade, they're going to grow up to be an engineer. Certainly I didn't. But the more I see with children and robotics and online and education that might have only been available to grown-ups in trade schools and whatnot, that's now available to anyone. But my wife is involved in engineering, telecom engineering, and more than anything, my wife's been doing this 3 decades, going back with phones that used to be like, this kind of phone here, and now wiring 4G, 5G, all of that stuff. I think that when something like this happens, a pandemic, something no one's seen in our lifetime, we then go to scientists, we then go to engineers at every level, whether it's at the top of government or at the top of Johns Hopkins, right on down to the community colleges and say, hey, we're in sort of a wartime situation right now. How can we move something forward? How can we be better? And we need smarter people. And everything we're finding out, certainly when we watch the federal government every night, everything's local, right? And you are as local as it gets right over in Catonsville and saying, we've got a need here locally to save lives. Let's roll our sleeves up. This is what we're built for, right?
And that's exactly what we're doing. As chair of the engineering department, I have 8 different academic programs, and I have the Fab Lab, which is a community resource that falls within the engineering department, and that's really where a lot of the focus of our efforts has been. I got a myriad of technologies under me in computer-aided design, drafting, construction management, engineering for the students that are going to go on to the 4-year schools, but engineering technology for those who are going to get a 2-year degree and support engineers. But I also have geospatial applications, which is mapping and GPS, HVAC technology, manufacturing, and surveying. Like all of those different areas basically make up my department. So we have this wide range of expertise within our department that sort of lends itself to help in a situation like this. And of course, that's where the Fab Lab Baltimore, which is housed as part of my department here at CCBC, and our computer automated manufacturing program, the faculty, staff in those 2 areas came together and said, we can help here. So let's jump in.
Jamie, before you go much further, I'm thinking folks driving around, they're listening, they're in their cars, or they're sitting at home right now, listening on their phones or their computers, saying, Fab Lab. What's the Fab Lab? Tell folks, give us a 4 dummies intro into what a Fab Lab is.
Yeah, well, basically put, a Fab Lab is a makerspace. And you may have heard of makerspaces, a big makerspace movement over the last several years. Makerspaces are a lot of times community resources for innovators, for people who are into technology, to use specialized software for design, but also to prototype products, to prototype parts before they go into, like a larger production process. So, you've got makerspaces that fall within high schools and within colleges, but then you have larger makerspaces like an OpenWorks in Baltimore, which is really where this thing launched 3 weeks ago. They put a call out to the maker community, and that's not just organizations, but also individuals who have access to either 3D printing or other maker technology like laser cutting technology to be able to basically make things. And in this case, we're making personal protective equipment, PPE, to help basically supplement the shortage that's out there.
Well, I think this is an incredible use of what you guys do to say what is our skill set and how can we be helpful here. At what point did it occur to you that you would be doing Baltimore Positive 6 weeks later in a pandemic, that you could be useful, right? I mean, I'm sure you're sitting home and your mind's working 24/7 about how to put these technologies to work, right? It's all you do.
Well, yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, Nestor. The last 3 weeks, this thing has grown legs. And it, like I said, it came with a call from OpenWorks that said, anyone who can 3D print, please, here's a design, 3D print this. And it was basically a big crowdsourced effort that, you're not going to 3D print tons and tons and tons of these by yourself. 3D printing is not necessarily a fast process. It's usually used for something like prototyping.
I don't understand 3D. What is 3D printing? Explain this to me, because I did not get the dummies. Give me the 4 dummies now. Don't listen. I'm a community college guy. All right, so I want the Dundalk, the old Dundalk, not the new one that looks like.
Don't knock it.
Yeah, not the new Dundalk.
Okay.
I want the old one.
No, it's okay. So yeah, 3D printing is basically what's called an additive manufacturing process, where you're basically adding material. Usually, it's some sort of plastic-based material that is being basically put through a printing machine where it gets melted and it gets deposited, basically thin layers, little by little, until it actually creates the object that you have told it to create. So you can do, all kinds of 3D type stuff. If you're thinking about producing a product and, it's expensive to produce because you've got to cut it out of metal, you can 3D print it first, which is a lot less expensive. And then you can kind of see how, you can test fit it. You can figure out how well this thing is going to work before you can commit to, say, mass manufacturing, mass producing it. So,
well, Jamie, you said, I love Nestor's question because I think everybody's out there going, gosh darn it, we hear about 3D printers.
Yeah.
We put a piece of paper on, and they come out.
Yeah, I
100
need to
at a
get the
time.
60-minute segment on that. I need to figure that.
Yeah.
That's going a little bit further than my Algebra 2 can take me right now.
Well, you guys can come in and we
but-
can show you what it is anytime.
We're going to take you up on that. But when I was chatting with you before we put the segment together, I want you to walk the people through, and you alluded to it because I had no clue. You said, "Hey Don, this isn't. You don't print things out one after another. Boom, 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 boom. 3D printing isn't fast." You said.
Right. That's exactly right. 3D printing takes a little bit of time. It's depositing material slowly. Some 3D printers are faster than others, and we found that the Fab Lab's 3D printer that we have here, we have several different types of 3D printers, but the one that we use to print the prototype that was sent to us, it took 6 hours to print one shield. Now,
Wow.
This is two pieces.
Now, this is acrylic face shield. I'm reading from the website here in OpenWorks.
Yeah, it's a basically a plastic or acrylic face shield that gets attached with two pieces, one at the bottom, I guess, for some stability, and then one to hold it to the medical staff's head. And that's what we 3D printed. We printed over the last 3 weeks about 8 to 10 of these, and that may not seem like much, but when you take several individuals or several organizations that have this technology available, and each of them prints several of them, now you have the potential to print thousands of them. And that is exactly what OpenWorks has done, is they've been able to pull together the community and get thousands of these things produced. So when we came in and we said, okay, my staff contacted me and said, look, can we get permission from the administration to be on campus and try this out? And they did, and they said, okay, this takes a while. Let's look at some other designs, because we have other technologies, not just 3D printing in the Fab Lab, that can potentially produce something that could also be useful. And that's where we wound up picking up an open source design from the web through a group called Helpful Engineering that basically could be produced in a different way, using acrylic and using a material called PETG. The PETG is basically the face shield material, and the acrylic is what is used to make the framework that attaches the shield to the head of the medical staff or the first responder. So we have two universal lasers that actually cuts the material out of acrylic. So instead of producing one face shield in 6 hours, we can cut several of them in a different design out of acrylic in 2 or 3 minutes. So while we're helping the OpenWorks effort, which is fantastic, we're also taking what technology we have available here to produce a different design that can, with the 4 or 5 folks that I have involved in this project, produce. So far, we're in the 750 to 800 pieces of protective shield. And we'll, by the end of this, we'll hopefully produce about another 800, about 1,600 total. And that's using some of the facilities that we have available to us off campus with some of our faculty who also have lasers. Not everybody has a laser. 3D printing, there's a lot out there, but these lasers are pretty specialized, expensive machines. So with 4 of them going, we've been able to crank out several hundred of these shields on our own. So that's been that's sort of the second part. This is like 3 parts to this project, where we've contributed to OpenWorks efforts. We've had our own efforts cutting this other design. And then we've been also partnering with Housing Our Neighbors in Baltimore City because they support their an advocacy group and support and provide resources for homeless populations in the city and beyond as well. And the thing there is that you don't realize there are tons of vulnerable populations out there that we hear about, and homeless populations are one of them. So to provide some degree of protection there, we've also used our laser cutters to cut fabric that basically sets up a sewing kit of fabric to go out to volunteers, and that comes back to us, and then we assemble it using elastic and a metal nose piece. So that's our crowdsourcing version of it too, where we've also got help from the community that is producing these masks. The shield
so
we're doing.
Your involvement in that, Jamie, and I apologize for interrupting. I'm just trying.
Well, it's all right.
So much going on. I mean, my head is exploding. It's such
That's
great stuff.
kind of where I am. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're, in addition to the face mask, you guys now are making patterns correct me if I'm wrong, making patterns that you then ship out to folks who make the masks, who ship them back to you, and you put them together?
Exactly. So those are the two
Wow.
main efforts. We have the shields, which is basically that plastic and acrylic shield that we talked about earlier, but we also have the mask production going on as well. And that's where we've got the community support behind it. People who have sewing skills are saying, hey, I can help. And so they've been going to a Google form that we set up on our website, and they say, I can take on 50 masks, I can take on 30 masks. My wife, Robin, has actually taken on some masks because she can sew, and I've been ferrying them back to the lab, and that's where my staff will put them together with the remaining parts that have to be done, which includes the elastic and the metal nose piece. A couple of different operations going on here. All the while, my faculty are busy teaching online classes and all the different programs that I mentioned, so kind of juggling several different things all at once here, but we're really glad to be able to help this effort and to be partnered with all these different organizations that are trying to make a difference through the crisis.
Busy guy here making a difference. Jaime Alvarez is the department chair of engineering at the Community College of Baltimore County, one of my alma maters. I was Dundalk, he was Essex, he's now in Catonsville because he wanted to be closer to Moeller apparently. The CCBC system, and it's been a little while, and Don and I have done a lot with education, with high school education. We're going to do a lot with college education and having a lot of the folks on. We've had Dr. Rabowski on from UMBC as well. As a community college educated guy who went there in the late 80s, who found himself back on the campus in the early 90s for various things, dated a girl on campus, found myself back. Then maybe about 10 years ago, I was asked back to lecture at Dundalk, and I remember going back, and parts of it were sort of the same, and the cafeteria was in the same place, and some of it was sort of the same, but it really wasn't the same. I haven't been in 10 years to know, and I lived right off of Essex Community College for a long period of time at the turn of the century, right back behind the Boomy Temple on King Avenue. So I lived in that area for a long time. So I drove through the campus all the time and saw things and felt things. For me right now, I'm 51. I'll be 52. And I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but I do realize unemployment's going to get well over 20% before all this is happening. And there's going to be a change of life here. And I'm really trying to reset my life from being a sports guy where there ain't no sports anymore, Jaime, to being a, more along the lines of serving my community, having done this for 30 years and having 100,000 people. But let's say I was a displaced guy in my industry. I don't know, AM radio went away. Or let's say we did away with journalists in this country, which the president would clearly like to do based on Monday night, and that I had to go back to school again. And Don, you'll laugh at this and you'll make some old back-to-school reference with Rodney Dangerfield or whatnot, or my kid and I going to community college again, but I remember those nights at community college at Dundalk in the 80s. I remember my night classes there, as well as real estate classes at Dundalk Community College, as well as at the University of Baltimore, where I was the 22, 23-year-old kid getting an education, a third and fourth-year school, but there were a lot of adults, and I wasn't one of them when I went to college, around me, literally, Jaime, at every level. At every level, there was someone Don Moeller's age now, and I'm not going to give his age away, but I don't think I had a community college class at Dundalk that, Don, no offense to you, didn't have someone your age.
Sure.
And I'm thinking to myself right now, if I had to do it again and I went back, I don't know that I'm cut out to be a robotics guy or cut out to be a cyber technology specialist or whatnot. But I'm thinking at this point, the thought of what the next career is going to be, when I'm hearing you explain stuff to me that I, quite frankly, would, if I was over there in front of you right now watching this 3D printer, my jaw would drop and I would be very hard-pressed to ever explain it to anyone. But I'm thinking where we are in life right now and where this COVID's going to leave us, there are going to be a lot of people looking to say, hey, that smart guy that was on Baltimore Positive, I wonder if I went back and the government helped me get an education, I could do this, and some Bernie Sanders plans out there to educate me or something. Where is the next 5 years for someone that would want to walk, even with the silver in my beard, onto a campus and say, I'm going to live to be 80 or 85. I'm going to need to work the next 20 years. There ain't no newspaper industry anymore. There's no more sports radio anymore. What would I do? Give me a little briefing on what a guy like me or a guy like Don or someone like my son who's in his early 30s that would say, maybe engineering's the thing for me. Maybe I should take that up.
Yeah, wow. Let me get my crystal ball out here and look ahead the next 5 years. No,
well, you're going to be teaching it, right? Whatever it is, right?
Exactly. No, you make a really great point there. It's funny, we see these economic issues that are happening as part of this crisis. And one of the trends you've seen in enrollments over the last 6 or 7 years is really a decline. The economy has steadily gotten better before this crisis. And so we're sort of we're inversely related to the economy. When the economy is good, people are working and they're not coming to school, so enrollments go down. And CCBC and many other community colleges around the area are following the national trend where not as many people are enrolled. But when the economic picture changes, when the economy kind of drops off, people come back to school. We saw that happen when we had the housing crisis in 2008, and we saw an explosion in enrollments 2009, 10, 11, 12, where it really peaked. And then as things kind of slowly got better, enrollment started to drop off. So when folks need to retool, when folks need to change careers, they come to the community college to get new skills. And, my first 6 years at this institution, I was teaching. I was in the classroom regularly, and Best Steel shut down, and a lot of those workers wound up needing to retool. I wound up teaching some of those folks who'd been around for a while in the steel industry, looking for a new technology to learn, and they learned how to do.
And now you see them 10 years later, and they got a hell of a career probably, and they you might have met them when they were 30, 40, and now they're 50 or 60, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And like I said, that's the community college there. We serve in so many different ways. We don't just issue degrees or certificates on the credit side. We have a continuing education side of the house that also, people don't necessarily need to come back and get a full degree. They just need to get some skills to get back to work. And that's where our continuing education can really support those folks as well. So you name it, we've probably got it. And I think, our engineering department is a really good example, sort of on a smaller scale of that, where I have so many different programs that people just weren't aware that, that would even be within an engineering department. And I think that you could say the same for community colleges in general. You can say the same for CCBC. Some people don't realize that our health professions are among the best in the state. And our other programs across all of our academic schools, what we have here, the resources we have are just amazing. And, I went to a 4-year school. I'm proud to say that I went to Towson University. I'm a local kid. I went to Poly. But when I got to CCBC 13 years ago, my goodness, I was a fool to go straight to a 4-year school. I could have saved my dad some money and really figured out what I wanted to do instead of bouncing around as much as I did.
It was economic for me completely. When I made that decision in 86, 87, 88, right. I was Dundalk High. I probably could have gotten into Towson, but it felt like it was going to, mortgage me out. And that's, and I did all of my – it was just cheaper credits. It was a cheaper way to get an English credit for me.
There is no doubt. There is no doubt, Jamie, you and Nestor both allude to it, and as the former county executive and someone who worked with a number of county executives, that CCBC is a key component to the economic engine that is Baltimore County. I mean, on so many levels. It's such a central part of the communities all around the Beltway, and it really, one of the things whenever we try to attract a new business or a company or retain a company, one of our first line of defenses always was CCBC can be a job training and re-education machine. It can be a job training, professional development machine. So it is a true asset and a treasure in Baltimore County. But you've gotten involved. It's amazing. You've done this great thing. You've contributed during a crisis. We're just getting all these inspirational stories, but we do want to take an opportunity while we have you. I think folks might even be surprised, Jamie, that there's an engineering department at CCBC. So give us, you started to do it paint us with a sort of a broad brush of what people, regardless of age, that come through your program, what do they end up doing when they leave some of them, I guess, go to four-year colleges. Others do. What do they do? What's engineering look like at CCBC?
So, that's a really good question. So it is the engineering department. And when you think engineering, you think of someone that's gone to a four-year school who's an engineer and high levels of math and science, and is, a civil engineer, electromechanical engineer, doing some pretty advanced stuff.
All of those things that feel very intimidating to me. The English, the verbal, oral literature writing guy, right?
Yeah, but and that's how our program serves part of that population. Some of those students are coming through, and their intent is to be an engineer ultimately. So what they do is they come here as part of our transfer pattern. They get a lot of their general education courses and some of their introductory engineering courses, and they are transferring on to a four-year school. But the other part of that is all of those different programs that I mentioned. So I've mentioned engineering, but I also mentioned engineering technology. An engineering technician going through our engineering technology program supports an engineer in their work. They may not necessarily be interested in going to a four-year school right away, or ever. They may be wanting to enter the job market, the workforce right away. And so with a 2-year degree in engineering technology, they can go to work, with a good career path and upward mobility in supporting an engineer. And they may find that they want to go into an engineering program down the road. But that's where a lot of all of those programs that I mentioned earlier, CAD, computer-aided design. I have a construction management program that falls under engineering, and all the mapping, the geospatial, HVAC, the manufacturing, which is really the heart of this PPE project, and surveying. We have a surveying program here these are all engineering-related types of programs. There aren't many engineering companies out there that just specialize in one area. They probably have several different areas. So all of these different technologies that I have in my department, they fit really well with what a lot of engineering companies are doing out there. But, you can also come through my department and get a 2-year degree in HVAC and go to work for any number of companies in the area doing, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. That might not be one that you normally associate with engineering, but, there's a lot of math and advanced type.
I've met those guys. Concepts. I know that.
All of my folks that are within this department, whether they're faculty or staff, they really know their stuff, and they're here to see students on to bigger and better things. That might be a 4-year school. That might be going right into the workforce. So that might be a certificate or a 2-year degree to get them ready to work.
And if, it's, again, such a great example. And these are, if Dr. Curtinitis were here with us, and we will have her on in a couple of weeks, she would be talking about these are family supporting jobs that go wanting, and the community college is ready, willing, and able to get folks up and get them placed in these jobs. And she would certainly not let me forget. I'm so proud of Dr. Curtinitis and the work she did with my predecessor, Kevin Kamenitz, when they developed the College Promise Program. And Nestor, you may not be aware of this, but CCBC, along with Baltimore County government, created really one of the first free tuition programs in the state of Maryland. And Dr. Curtinitis pushed for it. And for income-eligible students, you can go to Community College of Baltimore County 100% tuition-free. So there are incredible opportunities out there. Jaime Alvarez, chair of the physics department, has been kind enough to share with us what they did to jump in and help our society be better during this pandemic. Jaime, you made all this stuff. You made the mask. You made the face shield. How did you get them distributed? The last question that I have.
So, really good question. So Helpful Engineering was great with helping us with that for our first recipients. It was United Medical Center. They're close to D.C. They got a shipment, and so they helped us get those delivered. But I actually had the pleasure last week of personally delivering to Mercy Medical Center in Baltimore and the Baltimore County Police Department. It was a pretty emotional day for me. To see, a bunch of nurses who really needed this stuff through glass, downtown Baltimore, on St. Paul Street, just welcoming me and showing their appreciation for what we're doing.
8 blocks away from where I'm sitting right now, by the way.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
literally, right?
And then, after that, it was a trip up to Towson to the Emergency Operations Center to meet with some of the folks from their area in the Baltimore County Fire Department who are now actually helping us distribute PPE throughout the county. And that's one of those things, it felt very grassrootsy at first while we're kind of getting this together and trying to figure out what we can do and how to distribute this stuff. And we weren't sure, who all is going to get stuff, and we're kind of scratching our heads figuring things out. So we got the first few deliveries out, and now we've got the backing of not only of our administration here at the college, but the County Executive Olszewski and the Emergency Operations Center helping us direct where these are most needed, because we don't necessarily know. So it's really helpful to have their backing in our efforts. While we produce this stuff, once we have it produced, we let them know, hey, this is how many units we have available. Where do you need us to get them to? Or let's get them to the EOC so that they can distribute them.
Hey, Moeller, you keep having these smart guys on. You're making me look bad here.
Man, I'm telling you, truly uplifting. And you know what else, Nestor? Let me tell you, and I'm going to give Jamie the opportunity before we jump out of here. Because Jamie did yesterday when I chatted with him off air what every great leader does. Had we had the technical capability, Jamie wanted to have his folks on with him because he said, what all great leaders do, Don, it's not me, it's my team. So, Jamie, I want to give you an opportunity as we get ready to get on out of here to sort of highlight some of your team members who you said have just been remarkable.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Don. Thank you so much. We just hired Jennifer Kim. She's the Fab Lab manager. She's kind of the heart and soul of the project right now. And she just came to us in early March. So you can imagine, here we are in the first month and a half of her employment at the college, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and she's, leading the charge here. We have a lab technician, Mary Thomas, who's in the Fab Lab with her. They're practicing safe social distancing while they're in the lab working together. But then we also have the coordinator of my computer automated manufacturing program. His name's Bill Wernicke. He has this technology available at home, the laser cutting technology. He's volunteered his laser to cut the materials. I have a staff member, John Lyons, who is also one of our adjunct faculty in that same program, our machining program. And it is actually his wife, Kim Lyons. She has a company called An Etch Above over in the Parkville, Kearney, sort of Nottingham, White Marsh area.
That's Baltimore County. We call that the Tenderloin.
That's right. Yeah, she has a business that is not essential. She basically had to shut down, but she's also got a laser that's available to cut these shields. And so that's the core of the team that has the technology at their fingertips and the expertise and the know-how to produce these things. And then I'm the one who asks the administration for stuff. I get to move things around, materials around the Baltimore area. I ask for money. My administrative assistant, Kiara Kirby, she's based right here in Catonsville, but we need to buy something. She's buying it for us. And, we're getting clearance from, my dean and my vice president and Dr. Curtinitis. They've really backed us and said, you guys are doing good things. Here's, you let us know what you need. Go do it. Because this really shows community coming together. So that's the core of the team. But there are countless other volunteers that are out there that we don't even know, I don't even know personally, that have contributed, whether they're sewing masks or, small businesses that, we've gotten supplies from, just helping to keep them going. In a crisis like this, there's just so many parts to it. But, yeah, that's the core of the team there that's really helping out.
Well, Jamie, one of our previous guests was Bill McCarthy, the executive director of Catholic Charities, and he told Nestor and I that he's driven by the desire to live life with a greater purpose. And clearly, you all at CCBC, through your outreach here, have done that. You lifted Nestor and me up. Dr. Sandra Curtinitis, we love you. We love your team. Jamie, thank you so much. Nestor, take us out of here.
Jamie, appreciate you. Jamie Alvarez, Engineering Department Chair. You can find all that they do at ccbcmd.edu. It's the Engineering Department, and we hope to see Jamie over in the Fab Lab sometime soon, but doing this great work during COVID-19 and during the crisis. We talk about crisis management, people coming to the forefront. CCBC. Dundalk 89, a part of all of that. So great to have County Executive Don Moeller as a part of Baltimore Positive, and our theme around here, right up on the screen, keeping calm. They're doing that at CCBC, staying local. It says Baltimore County right on it, and helping people around here with mask and safety and PPE. Great story told there. We're telling a whole lot of them out at WNST.net, AM 1570, out in our buy at Toyota.com audio vault, getting around town with business leaders, as well as moving forward, we're going to have some educators on, as well as some folks in the medical profession, and talking about how we're keeping all of this together in the time of crisis. We used to do sports. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and we never stop talking Baltimore Positive.